All right, we'll get started. If all the board members would make sure the microphones are turned on and adjusted. I'll call the meeting to order, but before we proceed, I'd like for each of us to take a moment and ask for guidance, each in our own way, regarding the decisions that we'll be making tonight on behalf of the county. Thank you. Roll call.
Mr. Talbot?
Here.
Mr. Easley?
Here.
Ms. Deering?
Here.
Ms. Glass?
Here.
Mr. Craddock?
Here.
Mr. Merrick's?
Here.
Mr. Yeaman?
Here.
Okay, thank you. You have the agenda, the proposed agenda in your packet. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion that be approved as written.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by raising your hand. All opposed likewise. Thank you. Also in your package, you have the minutes of the meeting of September 8th. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes?
I move they be accepted.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. All in favor of approving the minutes as written signify by raising your hand. Thank you very much. Old business. Old business?
There's no
None.
old business.
Okay. New business.
So next month, we have 2 cases. We have one is recreational facility and ATV trails in the Pinhook area, and then another special use permit for utility scale solar energy facility in the Axton area. We will also be holding a training for the Board of Zoning Appeals and Planning Commission next month on the meeting date. You'll have to forgive me. The Thursday that you all meet. So that'll start at 5. So just wanted to get that on everyone's calendar so you can plan on attending.
So that's the Thursday after our Tuesday meeting? Is that what you said?
I'm sorry, the Tuesday meeting. I don't know why I said Thursday. It'll be the Tuesday that you meet.
Oh, before
Yes.
this
So
meeting?
at 5
we'll meet
o'clock.
at
So 5 to 6:30, we'll have a training.
All right, and you know where?
It'll be here.
Okay. No chairman's report? So with that said, we'll proceed to the public hearings. Before we proceed, just so everybody understands, everyone will address the board, not each other and not the applicant. If someone raises a point that requires a question of the applicant, then if it rises to that level, then one of the board members will ask that question. The procedure we're going to follow is the applicant, we'll hear the application, then we'll hear from the applicant, then we'll hear from the public. We'll call the people that have requested to speak, and then we'll give other people who may not have signed up an opportunity to speak. And that'll be the end of the public input. At that point, we'll have rebuttal from the applicant. At that time, the applicant will address what he heard from the public, those points and only those points. And then we'll proceed to considering the case and considering the motion. So, with that said.
3 minutes to speak. 3 minutes.
Oh, yes. Oh, I see. I think that's in the, my fingers don't work as fast as they am. So, ladies and gentlemen, pursuant to Article 5, Division 7 of the Pittsylvania County Zoning Ordinance, we, the Board of Zoning Appeals, have been empowered to hear and decide specific applications and appeals in support of said ordinance. In accomplishing this important task, we're charged with promoting the health, safety, and general welfare of the citizens of Pittsylvania County. We must ensure that all our decisions and recommendations be directed to these goals and that each be consistent with the environment, the comprehensive plan, and in the best interest of Pittsylvania County, its citizens, and its posterity. Anyone here to speak to the board other than the applicant regarding zoning cases will be limited to 3 minutes, and we have lights down here to help you decide when 3 minutes is up. So, The public hearing in case S-20-013 is now open. The time is 7:04. Report, please.
Case S-20-013, First Piedmont Corporation has petitioned for a special use permit on a total of 224.08 acres located on Clarks Mill Road and on Cedar Road in the Dan River Election District for a landfill. The Planning Commission recommended by a 6-0 vote with opposition that the petitioner's request be granted with conditions. The staff summary is enclosed in the board packet. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Ben Davenport, Mr. Tommy Stump, Mr. Nick Setliff, and Mr. Thomas Wade with First Piedmont are here to represent the petition.
Okay. So would someone for the applicant like to speak in support of the application?
Breathe.
Just state your name, please, and,
My name's Tommy Stump. I'm president and CEO of First Piedmont Corporation.
okay.
And thank you for your time. I appreciate your consideration tonight. I think First Piedmont provides an essential and vital service to throughout our region for commercial and industrial waste hauling and disposal. And we've had an issue come up that we had to address in order to keep moving our facility forward and in the best method. And the issue, to move right on into that, why are we asking for a special use permit? We had a building on the facility, a structure that's very old and needs replaced. We've got 2 or 3 others and probably 1 or 2 potential new facilities. So we were starting with our first replacement facility, and we went for a building permit, and we're told that we would first need a special use permit to modify anything on the facility. We were a grandfathered facility that existed prior to zoning. The landfill was opened in '72. And so we've been operating under, am I using the right term? A grandfather clause. So to bring it into compliance, we're asking for a special use permit. It doesn't give us any latitude whatsoever or any potential to expand the landfill or the disposal of trash, not 1 square inch. The only thing we need the special use permit for is to replace existing buildings and to add any existing structures. In other words, we can't get a building permit. And one of the things we're dealing with that you're probably going to hear quite a bit about tonight is odors that we've had at the landfill. We have had some odors, as a lot of landfills do, and we're trying to deal with that. We had recently a first generation odor control unit that we purchased from a firm out of Texas, and we installed it. We think it helped a lot. We saw our odor complaints drop from 2019 to 2020 by 77%, but it's not 100% effective, and we're trying to get to that 100% level. That's what we want to attain for ourselves, for the neighborhood, is to have a situation where we don't have odors there. So this is one of the dilemmas we've got. We've got a second generation odor treatment system now. It's got several additional features to it. It's been delivered from Louisville, Kentucky. It's sitting on our property. We put several of the components together. Now at the end, when we place it in place at the landfill, we've got to put it inside of a structure. It has fluids that runs through it. The air is pulled in a vacuum from the bottom of the landfill through this odor treatment system, and it circulates through fluid solutions that trap the odors. And in order to be able to operate that, say pretty much from this time of the year on until spring, it's got to be in a climate controlled environment. So that's probably right now tonight, that's one of the more critical needs we've got. We don't want to operate with the old buildings that are there. We want to replace those as time comes along, and it will. We've got some buildings out there that are 40 years old, and so that's certainly something we want to do, is keep our buildings up to date, but we also want to be able to adequately address the odor issue, and we can only get that building permit if we've got this special use permit in place. And again, I'll close by saying, I think some of the concerns have been is that it's an expansion of the landfill. It is not an expansion at all. We're regulated by DEQ, Department of Environmental Quality. We have a stipulated footprint that's already been laid out, designed, and we can't go beyond that stipulated footprint. So the special use permit is exclusively about being able to keep our structures modernized and up to date and add as needed.
Okay.
Question?
Is that's your presentation then?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I've got a couple of questions, and you guys speak up too if you. What's the anticipated life of the landfill? How many more years do you think you'll be able to operate there?
Well, that, Mr. Talbot, all depends on the daily inflow,
Right.
and that varies from time to time depending on what a particular plant might be producing. Sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. But I would say right now it's somewhere at current volumes, it's somewhere in the 20, 25 year time frame.
Okay. And as far as the tonnage that you handle, is any of this construction, will that allow you to handle more tons per day? Or is this to maintain your current capacity, just renovate the buildings? Is that?
It's just to renovate the buildings and add buildings.
Anybody else? All right, we'll probably have some more questions
Okay.
As we go along.
Okay,
Thank you. All right, this time we'll hear from the public. We do have some inputs that we got tonight. Petition. In particular, I guess that's it for this. All right, so we'll hear from the public. Please step forward and state your name and where you live. Mike Basista?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Mike Basista, and I reside at 1449 Cedar Road. My wife, Martha Cheney Basista, is the owner and operator of Cheney's Service Center, a Mercedes-Benz repair specialist. As a retired chemical engineer with over 39 years of industrial experience, I am well aware of the types of materials and chemicals that are typically sent to a landfill. Given the well-documented history of excessive dust and harmful odors and close proximity to residential areas, it would be hard to imagine a governing body granting approval for any expansion or change in the operation of the landfill. In addition, it's hard to imagine, from an engineering perspective, a machine device that has been described that could completely mitigate all odors from such a large footprint. This seems to be an attempt to placate this community into believing that a solution is just around the corner. So I urge you please to reject this permit request. Thank you.
Thank you. Jerry Martin?
My name is Jerry Martin. I live at 837 Court Creek Lane, Ringo, Virginia, in the Mountain Hill community. I've lived there all my life, and I'm here to oppose the special use permit. I would like to discuss with y'all some of the safety issues that we are faced at the present that you're not aware with, I'm sure. Can y'all hear me? Okay. Every day when we pass the entrance to that landfill, we drive through a cloud of dust, gravel on the road, debris on the highway, heavy traffic. All day long, trucks speed up and down that road. The The trash is, they pick it up about once a month. I have trash on my property that has blowed off the landfill because they are not covering the landfill at night like they're supposed to do according to DEQ's regulations. Large tankers pull out in front of us, big trucks pull out in front of us. It's a very busy highway, and it's extremely busy all day long with those trucks. The facility is not keeping the road clean. According to DOT, that road's supposed to not be any debris or mud on that road. When it rains, there's mud on it Monday morning. When I went to town, I had to slow down to cross it. I'm sure some loggers in Pittsylvania County would sure like to know about this, because the DOT sure does stay on them, don't mind writing them a ticket. If they had to clean that road up to be safe for the people to travel up and down Clarks Mill Road, it would just slow them down to a crawl. Also, in 2007, we had a fatality at the entrance to First Piedmont. I think it hit some gravel there. Later, they put concrete, poured it all the way to the highway. I handed this from DEQ just a little while ago. Do you realize that they have had 7 fires since 2017? They've had 3 in 2019, which one of them, the big one, I'm a member of Ringo Volunteer Fire Department, plus all the other fire departments in the area. We pumped over 1 million gallons of water on that fire that night. It polluted the air. They cannot, according to DEQ, they've had over 100 complaints of odor. That's nothing's been done. This has been going on for 5 years or more. They cannot regulate what they have now, and why would you give them a special use permit? That's what I can't understand. I mean, have y'all done y'all's homework? I hope y'all have, because it's a lot to study here. It's a serious issue for the people of Mountain Hill community. Plus we have school buses that's traveling that highway with all that traffic.
All right, thank you, sir.
One more thing, just one more thing. Where's it at? You know, a couple years ago, I applied for a special use permit.
Does that relate to this application?
An application for a gun range. And the board told me, Mr. Martin, if you build this gun range and you are 1 inch off, we're going to turn it down.
Okay, thank
Do
you.
you have double standards, or is that just for me?
Yeah, we
That's
do
what I'd
have,
like
we have
to know.
3-minute standards. Thank you, sir. Julie Owen? Now, it would help if, try to be concise, and if a point's already been made, we've noted and we will address it in our discussion. So that gives you time to give us new information.
Hi, I'm Julie Owen. I reside at 495 Coy Creek Lane. I'm here in opposition to the special use permit that's being requested by First Piedmont. You have in your packet a copy of the petitions that were completed by our residents in our community. Some are unable to be here tonight, and I've been asked to represent them. At the previous meeting of the Planning Committee, we witnessed a huge injustice to the citizens of the Mountain Hill community and the surrounding areas that pose valid questions regarding the landfill and their expansion. When are the citizens with their questions and concerns with answers allowed in these meetings? We walked out of here and a lot of people didn't get their answers. Many legitimate questions were asked by the citizens of Ringgold toward First Piedmont, and they, along with the committee, never acknowledged them. There needs to be some accountability on First Piedmont's part. We had to listen to them say so many times that they want to be good neighbors. In my opinion, a good neighbor will inform those in the immediate area of their intent for construction or any changes they're requesting. By not choosing to share this information, they are trying to withhold information that could affect residents in the immediate vicinity of the dump. And this is vital information, especially when it's classified as an industrial landfill. A lot of people don't understand that they can dump asbestos-containing materials, industrial sludges, construction and demolition waste, ash from coal-burning power plants, tires, and other items. I would also like to clarify, or for clarification, that according to the DEQ permit 065, it allows commercial waste, and in parentheses, excluding household and food waste. Most people are unaware of what is going into that landfill. They think it's just household garbage. As citizens of this community, we have the right to demand transparency and accountability from First Piedmont and the county's boards and committees. Why are we any less important than any other citizens? This would be a very different circumstance if this community was in Tuscarora or any neighborhood on 41. A few years back, my father said that he was denied the permit. We were told to go hire consultants and hire an NRA, another consultant to design the range. Who can do that? That's a $250,000 investment just for a local, small, on-farm target range. Like he said, there is a double standard here in this community, this county. Please deny this special use permit. What it boils down to is it will lead to expansion eventually, and the citizens, we can't put up with it anymore. We would like you to deny the special use permit. It will be an expansion eventually. We know it. We've watched it for 40 years now. Thank you.
Thank you. And Robin Rossum?
Hi, my name is Robin Rawson. I live at 1125 Cedar Road. I also attend church at Evangel Assembly of God at 645 Cedar Road. For the last probably 2 to 3 years, every time we would go to church, we would have a mound of trash uncovered behind our church building. We've had to cancel events. We no longer even have outside events anymore because of the smell. The last event we had outside, we immediately had to stop it. There was so much debris blown from the dump onto our property. There are no barriers between our properties except for a little flimsy black plastic, looks like a big trash bag stretched across some beams in the back. There's nothing to detract from the view. There's nothing to mitigate the horrible smell that's there. And I don't understand why 200 and some acres has to be rezoned or for a special use permit or done for a special use permit. I used the wrong terminology. I mean, how many buildings are you going to build that you need 200 and some acres, changed? Why not just do the acreage that's needed for the buildings? I understand that they say that they have purchased this new machine to mitigate the smell. I have to agree with my gentleman over here to 1449 Cedar Road. I don't see how one machine is going to take care of the terrible smell that permeates our neighborhood. When it rains, you cannot go outside. I live approximately a quarter mile from the church. I had never smelled the dump at my house before until the last 3 years. It has just been unbearable. You can't sit on your porch. You can't open your windows. So, they should have to, at the very least, construct something to keep the line of sight so you're not looking at mounds and mounds of trash. Funny thing, though, after the meeting last week, when I rode by the church on my way home, new levels of dirt had been put on that mound behind our behind our church. So I'm entirely against a special use permit. I understand they need to build new buildings, but do they have to do the entire 200 and some acres just to build a few buildings? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, no one else has signed up. Is there anyone that would like to address the board before we move on to the applicant's rebuttal? Okay. Mr. Stump, was it?
Yes.
Would you like to provide a rebuttal to anything that you heard from the public? Now, again, just address what we heard from your neighbors, okay?
Ben Davenport here.
Yes, sir.
And I would say that basically we're trying to improve things. It's a work in progress. I know that that a landfill is a difficult thing to manage and to make as good as possible. But we are trying our very best to be good neighbors. And so all I can say is that our team is actively trying to do everything possible, and we can't do what needs to be done without becoming in compliance.
In reference to a couple of comments I heard about expansion, there seems to still be feeling among our neighbors that this relates in some way to expansion of the landfill. And I'll repeat just once again, it in no way relates to expansion of the landfill. If we don't have the special use permit, we continue to operate on the same footprint. If we have the special use permit, we operate on the same footprint. The only difference is we can upgrade our buildings. We can add existing buildings as needed. And that's the key difference in the way we're operating now. And what got all this started was when we went to building inspections and asked for a permit to take a 40-year-old building and bring it back up to a new building.
Right.
And so, again, I just would emphasize that, I'll answer any questions, but this has nothing to do about expansion.
All right, what percentage of the material you'll handle is household waste, and what percentage is industrial waste? Just roughly, you got any idea?
No household waste is buried at that landfill.
Zero.
There is zero.
Okay.
It says, I think the lady read that it's commercial waste, and I believe she said excluding. I couldn't see understand if she said excluding or including, but it's excluding household waste.
Okay.
That's another whole permit. That would be like Pittsylvania County. It's a municipal solid waste.
Right.
That's
All right. Now, what
household.
about the condition of the road, the mud on the road? It rains, it gets muddy, the truck's going to be. Do you have a wash rack where the trucks are washed before they return to the highway?
We do, and we also have a.
Is it not used?
Yes, sir. It's used.
Well, how's the road get muddy?
Well, you still got. There's some tracking, but I wouldn't agree that the road is heavily muddy at all. There may be a clump that drops out from under the truck after a wheel wash or something, but we also maintain a street sweeper that we sweep the road ourselves with, from the road to the bridge, further if necessary, but it's usually right at the gate. So we do address that issue with equipment.
Okay. Debris. What changed 3 years ago that might have changed the odor level in the vicinity of the church? Did you open a new pit, or was there a change that you made that might have caused that?
Well, we've had a fair amount of drywall, sheetrock, that we've disposed of, that as it deteriorates and is buried, as it's buried and becomes in a non-oxygen or anaerobic environment, it produces a hydrogen sulfide, that rotten egg odor. And the system that we put in and that we're now modifying to improve has been, hydrogen sulfide is in wastewater treatment plants, it's in natural gas plants, it's a very common element, and the system that we've chosen, that we've had an engineer from Virginia Tech develop for us in collaboration with a group out of Houston, is designed to deal with hydrogen sulfide odor. And we had actually meters on the first prototype. We pull the air into the system, the first prototype. We would check the hydrogen sulfide coming in and the hydrogen sulfide coming out, and it worked. It wasn't sustainable. And what it does is it runs it through a water solution that's basically an iron catalyst, and it converts the hydrogen sulfide to chalk. It's a yellow chalk residue that you periodically go in and clean out. And it was working. So to answer your question, I think that's probably the change that we've seen over the last several years, and that the solution to it, we think we found. We've just got to keep tweaking it, and we think that this ladder system that's much larger, much more expensive, would hopefully address the issue.
Okay. Anybody else got any questions? I'm sure we will have before we're done, so thank you.
Okay?
All right, this will end the public hearing portion. The time is now 7:30. Okay. There, we heard quite a bit of information. What struck me probably most is the fact that they're not actually expanding the capacity of the landfill or what they're dumping there. As you know, a non-conforming use, if it's substantially destroyed, it cannot be repaired. And if it needs additional buildings or newer buildings, they can't be built until it's brought into compliance. So the essence of this application is to bring the landfill into compliance. The neighbors have pointed out some problems that we might have an opportunity to address in the special use permit. If in your packet, the staff recommendation, let's see, let me read it off this other one. The staff recommendation, landscape buffer 20 feet wide, and they must retain their DEQ permit, which that's a requirement anyway, but as you will recall, a lot of times we'll put stuff like that into a permit to give the local authority more leverage for enforcement. And that was, in its recommendation, the Planning Commission recommended that those two conditions be imposed. Comments? Do we need to do anything else as far as protecting the neighborhood, or because it's not going to go away? They're going to operate the landfill, right? Do we allow them to bring it into compliance, improve the buildings, or do we say, no, you got to live with what you got? If we refuse the permit, that's what would happen. They would continue to operate, but.
Seems, Mr. Chairman, that the largest concern we've heard is the odor. And First Piedmont is seeming to want to work toward doing the best they can to mitigate that odor. And they're telling us the only way they can put in the new system is to build a new building to house that facility. So, and I think a point that one of the speakers came up about doing a special use permit on the entire landfill as opposed to doing a spot big enough for the building. That's maybe something that we address to the public. That
Well, it is a landfill. I mean, the buildings are.
right. We can't very well go in and spot zone an acre for a new building.
And that wouldn't help. That wouldn't help the odor or the other
Exactly.
operational problems. How about the condition of the road, the debris and we have reports of blowing debris and mud and, now, in response to the question, the applicant said they had a wash rack where the trucks are supposed to wash before they leave. Is there anything else that we could, and a sweeper, and of course the barrier, the vegetative barrier will reduce a lot of the blown, the blown debris and,
It's a landfill and it's there and it's gonna continue.
well, Want me to start calling names, or anybody else got any comments? Jay, what do you think?
I think with these conditions that are proposed, I think that would help. If we don't approve it, they'll still keep operating the landfill and nothing will change for the better. So I think this will help some.
Does the DMV or the DOT have anything with, if there is a problem with the road, do they have enforcement capabilities?
Well, we had issues years ago, and I believe they pretty much corrected the issue with what they've done, because I haven't heard any complaints in a long time.
Okay.
But they put in a concrete entrance, and like he mentioned, they're sweeping the road when it does get debris on it.
Okay.
Can I just interrupt and ask that you speak into your microphone so that the public can hear you in the back? Make sure they're on and that you're talking into
I
them.
don't think mine's on.
Yeah, we heard you, Jay. We do now. Any other comments?
Well, I pretty much agree with what's been said. You know, if we do nothing, it's going to be worse. They are trying to help the problem, and so without issuing a special permit use, we're actually adding to the problem, it seems to me, and I feel for the people that live in the community too, that, you know, but the fact that a landfill does give off odor, and if they're doing things to try to mitigate that, then, you know, I think we should do what we should to help them.
Okay, any, so what kind of motion would you like to consider then? Positive, negative? Positive?
Yes.
With,
Two conditions.
the condition, two conditions? You know, I thought I was gonna be smart and wear these new glasses, but they're not working. Okay. So, first Piedmont. Then the motion, meeting as a the committee of the whole, the motion that we would recommend, the positive motion would read, whereas First Piedmont Corporation has petitioned the Board of Zoning Appeals for a special use permit for a landfill, and whereas we find no substantial detriment to adjacent property, that the character of the zoning district will not be changed thereby, and that such use will be in harmony with the purpose and intent of the ordinance, and whereas there are adverse effects that can be mitigated through conditions, I move the special use permit be granted with the two conditions. Landscape buffer, a minimum 20 feet wide, comprised of any existing vegetation supplemented as needed, with a staggered row of planted trees or large shrubs installed along any residential property lines. The vegetation shall be at least 15 feet in height at maturity of any new plantings, and shall be a minimum of 6 feet in height at the time of planting. Existing vegetation shall be maintained and supplemented with new plantings as needed. The landfill must remain permitted through the Department of Environmental Quality and in compliance with all requirements of that permit.
It
Yes, sir.
says, on condition number 1, it says about installed along any residential property, and we've heard in the comments about a church. Should that church be included?
Yeah,
Because
because
it's
it
not, the
sounds like
church is
that may
not
be,
residential.
and that may be a point
Yeah.
of one of the complaints, was that there's
Yeah.
no barrier.
Right.
Installed along, along what? Residential and,
You could just exclude the residential and you could require it along all property lines, or any that are property lines that are not, with properties that are not owned by First Piedmont. So that would exclude any of their neighboring properties, but would provide a buffer along any properties that are neighboring properties.
That'll work.
so just eliminate residential. Now, that does pose quite a potentially a more significant burden on the applicant, but I don't think it's unreasonable, because especially if we have debris moving around, leaving the property. So it would say, or large shrubs shall be installed along property lines. And just remove any residential.
Is that not owned by First Piedmont?
Um,
Because they do own a large portion of land west of their landfill that is not included in this application.
along, blah, 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 blah.
Or is this just around the
Well, the
entire?
intent is to be around the landfill, installed along landfill property lines. How's that?
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
No? All right, is that the motion then? Now, I'll ask a question. Are you willing to accept these conditions that a 20-foot wide vegetative buffer be maintained around the landfill property and that the landfill maintain the DEQ compliance? Can you
Yes.
accept those conditions?
The condition of the tree border around the landfill property that borders third party, that's what we're saying? Third party?
Yes.
Yeah, not our property, is,
Right.
as Ragsdale pointed out, to the west, there's 2 tracts of wooded timberland that we own that we've not requested any special use permit on. So we wouldn't think there would be any advantage to screening a heavily wooded area that's, one's like 50 acres and one's like 60 or something. But yeah, we would accept the condition to tree border on any property that borders us.
If there's existing vegetation, this wouldn't apply because the condition states that they have to maintain existing
Right.
vegetation as long as
Okay,
it's
sure.
20
Yeah,
feet
so
wide.
this would be around the landfill property. If you've got another property, it wouldn't be around that property. But it
That's
would be,
fine.
but it would be between those properties and the landfill though,
Right,
all right?
that's okay.
All right. So, that 50 acres, yes, you would have to maintain a vegetative buffer. It may already exist. If it's wooded, it's already there.
Right, okay, that's fine.
Because even if that's not used in your operation, it's not in anybody's best interest to see trash and debris migrating into that 50 acres. So.
I agree.
All right. So, yes, sir.
I made a motion.
All right. So the applicant accepted the conditions. The motion's been made. Is there a second? Made and seconded. All in favor of the positive motion as written, please signify by raising your hand. Okay, thank you very much. It was unanimous. Thank you for coming out, and good luck. Now, for those here for that hearing, if you want to leave, we'll take a few minutes as we prepare for the next case. Phew. First Piedmont. That's First Piedmont. Okay,
Church,
whoops, this one.
they can't even do nothing at the church.
They're all the same.
We could let residential.
Well, I had one over here somewhere ready to go. All right, so, moving along, the next case is case S-20-014. The public hearing is open, the time is 7:43. Report.
Case S-20-014, J.D. Shelton and others have petitioned for an amendment to the conditions attached to the existing special use permit S-19-010 that was granted with conditions on September 10th, 2019, on a total of 450 acres located on Old Richmond Road in the Dan River Election District for recreational uses, ATV trails. The Planning Commission recommended by a 6-0 vote with opposition that the petitioner's request be denied. The staff summary is enclosed in the board packet. And Mr. Chairman, there is a letter from Mr. Shelton in front of all of you. He is requesting to withdraw his application, and he would like to do that without penalty. So that is before you, and you all can review that.
Okay, you each have a copy of the handwritten letter. Basically, he's asking that we allow him to withdraw it without penalty, or without prejudice, which means if he wants to, he can come back next month and apply again. And that's up to the board whether or not to accept the withdrawal of the application. So,
I've got a question. How many people are here to speak on this application?
nobody signed up. Is the applicant here? The applicant's not here and no one has signed up. Is there anyone that would like to address the Red Oak Hollow application? Okay.
Okay.
All right, so we got two choices, a motion to accept the withdrawal or to deny the withdrawal. If we deny it, then we would proceed and hear the case on its merits and in the absence of the applicant and the public. So to hear a motion that we accept the withdrawal of the petition, realizing they
So
might come
moved.
back.
Yes, I do. Offer motion that we accept it.
All right, we have a motion that we accept the withdrawal. Is there a second?
Second.
Who said that? Nope, thank you. A second. Discussion? No discussion? Okay.
Given his history, I don't know why we need to cater to him.
Yes. So all in favor, the motion is that we accept the withdrawal of the application. All in favor signify by raising your hand. Thank you. All opposed, like sign. So one opposed. The motion passes and we will let that one live to fight another day. Okay. So that case, that public hearing is closed at 7:46. Now, the public hearing in case S-20-015 is now open. Report?
Case S-20-015, Anissa Weimer has petitioned for a special use permit on 53.56 acres located on Brights Road in the Stanton River Election District for a kennel for boarding dogs. The Planning Commission recommended by a 5-0 vote with no opposition that the petitioner's request be granted. Staff summary is enclosed in the board packet. Mr. Chairman, Anissa Weimer is here to represent the petition.
Good evening.
Good evening, how are you?
Good. Name and address, please.
Anissa Weimer, 4480 Brights Road. I also own 4710 Brights Road. We have 70 acres altogether.
Okay.
We are just looking to open a kennel to board dogs. At the time, we have 4 kennel boxes that are indoor and outdoor. They're 4.5 by 4 indoor and 4 by 10 outdoor. The plan is to eventually double that to 8 that are indoor-outdoor, and then have 8 that are outdoor only, 5 by 10. So most of them would only have 1 dog unless someone had like a little chihuahua. 2 of them they wanted to put together. Large dogs cannot go in them together.
Okay. So from your description, then, there are some of the runs that the dogs would be outdoors
Yes.
24 hours.
Yes, the way they're facing, it is completely surrounded by timber, both what we own as well as independent timber company.
Okay.
We have spoken with all the neighbors that adjoin our property, and none of them have a problem with it.
Right,
We have 5 dogs now, and my son, who lives on the 4710 property, has 2, and his roommate has 2, so that's 10 dogs, and nobody hears any of them, so.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? We may have some before we're done. Whoa. There are 2 of those. That's okay. No one signed up to speak. Is there anyone that would like to address the board regarding the kennel application? If not, then we'll close the public hearing at 7:49. Now, the Planning Commission wanted to limit the outdoor hours But based upon what we just heard of the
The
plan.
planning commission recommended it as submitted, so with no
Right.
conditions. That was,
Oh,
that
that
was
was a staff recommendation. Oh,
Right.
okay, all right. But you just heard the description, there would be some outdoor runs that would be, the dogs would be in those 24 hours. So, what are the adverse effects that would affect that community that we might need to consider, that we might need to mitigate through conditions? Or are there none?
Mr. Chairman, I don't know where a better place for dog kennel could be. I mean, it's beautiful out there.
Yeah.
It really is.
It's absolutely beautiful. And, I'm like Alan, I would love somebody to take dogs up there, but they gotta be looking for it to go up there.
Which is a good thing, more dog kennel out there.
All right, any adverse effects, so positive motion?
Positive.
Okay, the positive motion would read, whereas Anissa Weimer has petitioned the Board of Zoning Appeals for a special use permit for a kennel for boarding dogs, and whereas we find no substantial detriment to adjacent property, that the character of the zoning district will not be changed thereby, and that such use will be in harmony with the purpose and intent of the ordinance, I move the special use permit be granted. Is that the motion?
Do we,
Right.
are we gonna add the second to it, or the outdoors? I'm sorry, the condition?
No, that was a staff recommendation, the planning committee, I mean, we could, if
No, that's
you
fine.
think that's
No.
required, but,
I don't think so.
so a positive motion, no conditions. Anybody care to make that motion?
Second.
Made and seconded. So all in favor of the positive motion for the kennel, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you. Where is she? Thanks for coming out. Woo. All right. The public hearing case S-20-016 is now open. The time is 7:52. Report.
Case S-20-016, Rodney and Janet Shelton have petitioned for a special use permit on 8.57 acres located on Coleman Mountain Road and on Java Road in the Bannister Election District for the service and repair of all-terrain vehicles, ATVs. The Planning Commission recommended by a 5-0 vote with no opposition that the petitioner's request be granted with conditions. The staff summary is enclosed in the board packet. Mr. Chairman, Mrs. Janet Shelton is here to represent the petition.
Good
Good
evening.
evening.
I'm Janet Shelton at 3840 Coleman Mountain Road, Java.
Okay, what would you like to say in support of the application?
Well, everything that was read is correct. It's an existing shop that was built in 2013, farm shop, and it will be used to repair ATVs, UTVs, that type of thing.
Are you the mechanic?
I am not.
No. Okay.
I do keep the books, but
Yeah.
that's as far as I go. The mechanic is here if you need to speak to him.
No, we do have a recommendation that all ATVs must be stored in an enclosed area, screened from the right-of-way.
Yes.
Is that a condition you could accept?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant at this time? All right, we may have some before we're done.
Okay.
We've heard from the applicant. I can't see. That's the other one. There's a new 16. Is that Franklin Conklin? Who spoke up, who signed up to speak at this hearing? Sorry, sir, we're just having, we're all having trouble seeing tonight, so.
Well, I have trouble writing too.
Yeah.
Sometimes I can't even read my own writing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not gonna contest the special use permit, nothing like that. They agreed to this condition, you know, what we was concerned about was the parts that disposed with, you know, they created a lot of junk. We got problems on one side, we don't want to have it on the other side, so we're not going to contest it. We agreed to those conditions that they agreed to.
Okay, thank you. No one else has signed up. Is there anyone that would like to address the board before we close the public hearing? Would you like, do you have any rebuttal to the speaker? Okay. All right, we'll close the public hearing then. The time is 7:55. Okay. So, what are your thoughts?
Positive motion, Mr. Chairman.
No the screening will take care of any possible adverse effects? All right. In that case, the positive motion would read, whereas Rodney and Janet Shelton have petitioned the Board of Zoning Appeals for a special use permit for service and repair of all-terrain vehicles, ATVs, and whereas we find no substantial detriment to adjacent property, that the character of the zoning district will not be changed thereby, and that such use will be in harmony with the purpose and intent of the ordinance, I move the special use permit be granted with the following condition: that all the ATVs be stored in an area screened from the highway.
How about this 35-foot setback?
Let's see.
And from the planning commission.
Oh. So is that an adverse effect, you think, that we need the setback? All right.
I think it's acceptable, 35 foot.
Well, I mean, they've already got a setback in the zoning ordinance that's, all right, so there would be a second condition to the screening, would be that you maintain a 35-foot setback from the property lines. Is that acceptable? All right, so the motion would be as read with the following conditions. One, all ATVs, well, let's just say all outside storage. Shall be screened from, I'm just going to say from view. Now that could be vegetative or it could be a fence. And then number two, maintain a 35-foot setback.
Mr. Chairman, I would recommend that you say a minimum of 35-foot setback, because the required setback per zoning code may be greater than that.
Okay. Maintain a minimum of 35-foot setback. All right, so two conditions. All outside storage shall be screened from view and will maintain a minimum of 35-foot setback. Is that the motion?
So moved. That's the motion.
Motion, the second? And seconded. Okay, the positive motion has been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion signify by raising your hand. Thank you.
Ms. Glass.
Come on, keep up. All right. Thank you. So the public hearing in case S-20-017 is now open. The time is 7:59. Report.
Case S-20-017, Randy Hogan has petitioned for a special use permit on a total of 9.09 acres located on U.S. Highway 29 North and on Mount View Road in the Westover Election District for a drive-in movie theater. The Planning Commission recommended by a 6-0 vote with opposition that the petitioner's request be denied. The staff summary is enclosed in the board packet. Mr. Chairman, Randy Hogan is here to represent the petition.
Mr. Hogan?
Yes, tonight I came more prepared. Last Tuesday, I want familiar how things.
So what, just, we need to know is what you'd like to say in support of your application, or you can let the application speak for itself.
Well, what I like to support for the application is, last time we spoke, seemed like it was more about traffic accidents due to the crossing at Mount View Road in 29. A lot of the neighbors addressed the accidents, and that's one thing that y'all felt like that was going to cause a lot of traffic. And what I was meant to tell y'all the last time, that if it was any way possible that I could hire the sheriff's department to come and help with the traffic, or help with the tax funds and revenue coming in through the the drive-in theater, to put up a stoplight to help save lives and reduce accidents. And the buffer trees, we spoke with that. I don't know if y'all got a copy of the map, the layout of the property that I got designed.
Yes.
And I would like to show the community if they're interested in accepting it. And a couple things I like to talk about with the community of Blairmont, that some of them objected and said that I had different ideas. And I was trying to go with the best idea. And one idea that I didn't want was to take the property, change it dramatically, take out all the trees, and put it up for business operation opportunities. And me being there all the time, taking care of the property, mowing the grass, it's all to benefit the neighborhood, to make the neighborhood look better. Even though it's a drive-in movie theater, I know a lot of people get upset about it because it's the thought of having one. But also the thought of having a drive-in theater is the thought of privacy. Everybody in this community looks at a field every day. It's vacant, neglected. And if anything, the way it looks, it makes the value of the property in the neighborhood worse than what it is. I feel. I have been working on it. I'm not a guy to go out and hire a contractor, because I do have the ability of what I like to see get done. And when I first bought the property, it was loaded down full of kudzu. And I heard some people complain about what he might be putting on that Roundup. Well, I watched the Roundup commercial too. I got a 16-year-old son out there on a tractor. I'm not going to use anything to hurt me, him, or anybody in the surrounding areas. So I do look at the opportunities of things that you can put on kudzu just to kill the kudzu. The neighbors can ask, it's more grass growing there than ever. And two, about the pumpkin patch and the strawberry patch, the way the landscape of the property is, we was all concerned about erosion. And the last thing that I wanted to see any mud go in a wonderful, well-developed neighborhood. So then I looked at the option of the layout. What could this property be used for that can benefit Pittsylvania County, that can benefit all the senior citizens, children with disability, my son, my wife, people with anniversaries that would love to come to something and enjoy themselves. In the process, it'll probably take me to do it. It won't be overnight. It'll take probably at least a year. The trees that I'll be planting will probably be over 200 trees. And if the community feels like they need a sound barrier wall in the back, I would gladly work with them on it to benefit them as a person that cares. And the other question I had for the community is that everyone that lives surrounding the community know one day when they walked out that backyard that somebody's going to do something with this property one day. It's not just going to sit here. And when they put a for sale sign up on that property for 12 solid months, not one person behind me, including myself, could have bought the property. It was available to everybody. Then when I choose to buy it and clean it up, it seems like they're not ready for a change for the property, which I'm hoping that the most private that I can do with the property is the drive-in. Now, I was looking at all the other options for commercial property. B2 is what it is. And I got the list in front of me. I love to share it with the neighborhood. There's a lot of things in there that they probably wouldn't want beside their home. I mean, having trees and a car here and coming in and out every once in a while, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Now, if it rains Thursday and Friday and Saturday, the drive-in ain't gonna be open. And on Sundays, we're having a lot of hard times with churches due to the coronavirus. If any church calls and wants to use that property to do preaching on Sundays, is available. I wouldn't charge them because I do care. I care about families. I care about churches. And even though Blairmont is a place that it seemed like for the drive-in theater, me and my wife talked about it. My son last week, he was so disappointed, he just told me to leave it alone. Let some guys in Lynchburg develop the property. Maybe they take the trees down. I was like, Isaac, when you buy something, and just because the first time everybody has a hard time of accepting the changes, think about them. And I have. I thought all week. I've even talked to a lawyer for real estate. I spoke with him last night on the phone. And he gave me a lot of suggestions and ideas. And not one of them that I want to take as far as changing what they have. I want to keep everything the same. I just want to make it look better. And y'all giving me the opportunity of just trying it and seeing how it works. And I won't prove y'all wrong. And for the neighbors in the neighborhood, if they're interested in coming over and watching movies, then they're more empowered to. It's a place that they can come to. But for those who don't live in the neighborhood, they'll be there. Just be somewhere safe. Somewhere you can take your family and sit in the car and enjoy yourself as well as anybody else. And in the moment in time that we're in, that's what we need. We need to have somewhere for us and our families. And I need a place too. I have a 16-month-old daughter, 16-year-old son. I have a wife. I have a mama. And having family and knowing that my mom can be there with me to enjoy something of getting out of the house. Because the theater nowadays, you really have to worry about. If you in a theater and you don't know what's in there, you don't know what can happen. And that's
Okay.
my concerns.
In the time you got left, would you address the actual application itself? And
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
uh,
The application is the drive-in theater. What I'm looking for as far as planting all the trees and the stoplights,
how many vehicles?
no more than 200, if that many. I haven't put down the parking lot lines yet to see how many it holds, but it won't never be over capacity.
And you say 3 days a week?
Yes, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And Sundays, if a preacher wants to come out there and transmit radio to cars they're available for church, will be used also. That's the decision of all churches.
So how would you deliver the audio?
It would be through an AM, FM transmitter that would go through the car.
Okay, and what at what time would you stop operation particularly in the summertime in the evening?
No later than 11:30 to 12 o'clock.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant at this time?
What type of screen are you talking about?
I was looking at a 30 by 60 screen. It's not really big. It's not the size screen that you find in a big place. Screen, it's kind of looking like a billboard that's no higher than any trees were to be visible from the road. Due to the way the layout is and the property, it's downhill. And for the billboard, that's the advantage because all the cars will be facing it, so it won't be as high in the air as where it could be visible.
Okay. Anything else? All right, thank you. We'll hear from the public, and then we'll ask you to rebut anything that...
Oh, you're welcome.
At this time, nobody has signed up to actually speak regarding this application. I got a blank piece of paper.
Is that the right?
2017.
There's nothing on here.
All right, here's another 2017. All right, we got 4 people. Here, you take that. Thank you. Embarrass me. I'll get even. Susan Stevens, would you like to address this application?
Good evening. My name is Susan Stevens. I live at 3342 Brackenhouse Road, and I'm here tonight to oppose the granting of the special use permit to put a drive-in movie theater in our neighborhood, and more specifically in my backyard. I measured from my back door to the beginning of the property, and it's 175 feet. So if you know how far that is, that's pretty much my backyard. My husband and I have lived in this neighborhood for 38 years and have always enjoyed the peace, quiet, and security that it offers. A drive-in movie theater would disrupt the daily lives of our residents and simply would not be compatible with our lifestyles. This theater would have several adverse effects on the sense of safety, peace, and security. Number one, the noise and lights in our backyards late at night when most of us are trying to sleep. Cars leaving the theater would create the noise and lights in our windows. It would also possibly create more traffic throughout the neighborhood when cars are leaving. And we are talking about late at night when most people are trying to settle down and get a good night's sleep. Strangers literally in my backyard would have an adverse effect on my sense of security and peace of mind. Number two, the safety issue, I think, is a huge, huge issue. Both entrances to our neighborhood, Mount View and Blairmont, have decreased visibility. It has been the site of many, many accidents. It's nothing for us to hear the rescue squad late at night. I actually have a map that shows the number of accidents that have occurred within about a half a mile distance on that road on 29. My husband has actually had an accident turning into Mount View. A drunk driver from Livestock Market Road came across and hit him. Thankfully, was not hurt. The possible use of alcohol, other substances, I don't know how that can be controlled. These people are sitting in their cars. I don't know what they have. I don't know what they're doing. And then they're going to be pulling out into our neighborhood and into a very dangerous intersection from our neighborhood. The distraction to other drivers is also a concern. We've had accidents that have been attributed to distracted driving, one right across the road, in which 2 young people were severely injured by a distracted driver. Lights at night, a movie screen, if you're driving along that stretch of road at night, certainly would be a distraction to your driving. And we certainly don't need any more distractions than we already have. Decrease in property values. My husband is a realtor. It would be hard for him to show a house in our neighborhood when somebody asked him the question, is this a nice, peaceful, quiet neighborhood? I don't think he could honestly say that, and I am concerned about the decrease in our property values.
Okay.
So I'm asking you to not grant the special permit for those reasons.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Debbie McCormick?
Good evening. My name is Debbie McCormick. I live at 3206 Virginia Lane in Blairmont. And speaking, I know everyone's talking about the accidents, but I do have a FOIA report here. And from 2015 to 2020, from Landrum Road to Shanny's Bar and Grill, there were 63 accidents, 48 injuries, and 2 fatalities. So that was just in 5 years. So Ms. Stevens touched on some of the things I wanted to discuss too, the trash, the noise. I know Mr. Hogan had said he didn't serve alcohol, but you know good and well if there's a drive-in movie theater, there's going to be alcohol. So we are concerned about that. And keeping everything the same, it's not going to be the same when you look out your back door, your bedroom window, your kitchen window, your den window, and there's a drive-in movie theater. So touching on why probably a lot of the neighbors didn't want to purchase that land, I won't give you a big lesson in kudzu tonight, but anybody that's familiar with kudzu, you cannot get rid of it. You can mow it down, it looks real pretty, come back in 2 weeks. Now if the frost gets it, that's a different story, it'll be dead through the winter, but come back around April, March. You'll see it. I mean, you just cannot get rid of it unless you get it up by the roots. So that would probably be the reason for that. But another thing I wanted to touch on, we do have a special needs daughter who I think it would really affect her. She looks outside. I measured it today. From my back doorstep, we're 69 feet to his property. From our little building where we keep our lawnmowers and equipment, we're 15, what did I say, yard? Feet? What did I just say? I don't know what I just said. 15 feet from our building, 69 from our back doorstep. So we are very concerned. We're concerned about safety issues. We're concerned about just people being in and out of the neighborhood, and you don't know who they are. And then also, Mr. Chairman, do you all have the copy of the petitions that we gave last week? There are a few more added to that. We now have 283 in total. So I think that's a few more than last week. Same thing everyone keeps saying, we just have a peaceful, nice, quiet neighborhood, and we'd just like to see it that way. And unless he's talking about planting trees, I mean, unless he's going to plant something as tall as this building, sequoias or something, I don't know how a tree's going to block a drive-in movie screen. But anyway, that's our concern. So we are opposed to it, and we appreciate your time tonight for listening to us.
Okay, thank you. Tony Knuckles?
Good evening, and thank you for having me here tonight to speak. My name is Tony Tompkins Knuckles. I am a former resident of Blairmont, but my father currently lives there after 41 years. My son lives with him. He's a student at Averett University, so as you can imagine, my daddy's home is a place that I spend many, many days a week at. I am here to speak to you on behalf of my opposition to this movie theater proposal being brought into this neighborhood, my childhood neighborhood, that I love so dearly. And I respectfully ask that you not change the character of this neighborhood by allowing this theater to be built. Not only would it be in my daddy's backyard, but there are 5 other homes whose properties are adjacent to the would-be drive-in theater, and this would be a detriment to not only the people whose properties touch the drive-in theater property, but to all of the residents of the neighborhood. There are many reasons why I believe it would be a detriment to the community, many of which have already been mentioned, but I'm going to reiterate. The traffic hazard, definitely a distraction to drivers passing by. It was noted in the paper erroneously as being at the intersection of Mount Cross Road and 29, but it's actually Mount View Road. It's also listed as the Westover District, which is confusing to me because we're Blair's Chatham, unless something has changed that I'm not aware of. So I don't think it's been represented well in the media for being in our community. But also, my husband had an accident in the early 90s before we were married, pulling out of Mount View Road. So it is a very dangerous place. Thankfully, my husband was not physically harmed, although his car was destroyed. I agree with the other residents who have spoken in regards to the concern about alcohol and substance abuse that could take place. My father's backyard actually has a swimming pool, and I did not measure it, but I'm estimating that the deck from where the chairs are that we sit around the swimming pool is probably about 100 feet from the would-be drive-in theater property. I definitely believe it's going to be a nuisance for noise. There has been a movement across this country during COVID to turn drive-in theaters into venues for music concerts. I feel certain you all have heard that, and I cannot even fathom that being in my father's backyard. I am concerned about strangers that would be lurking around the neighborhood. Of course, I mentioned the pool. Mr. Hogan mentioned that he'd be running his business throughout the summer and possibly into the fall, Thursday nights through Saturday. Now I'm hearing on Sundays, which I'm very much in agreement with any church service, but this is something that would be going on in the summertime and into the fall in my father's backyard and the other residents' backyards. I'm concerned about the trash that will be left, and definitely the decrease in values of all the properties in the neighborhood, not just the ones that touch this property.
Okay, do you have anything that hasn't been mentioned?
No, and thank you for
Okay.
your time.
All right, thank you. And Bill Colbert. Mr. Colbert, okay. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Good evening to fellow Pittsylvania County members. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good. Okay. I'm Bill Colbert. I've been a resident for Blairmont for 35 years. I live at 3003 Fence Drive. Most of the neighbors I know. One of the big reasons I bring up the traffic problem because I work at VASAP, Virginia Alcohol Safety Action Program, where there's a problem with the accidents there at that intersection of Livestock Road and Mount View. Statistic is there from the traffic, from Virginia Traffic Highway Department is there. Virginia State Police statistics are there. Pittsylvania County Sheriff Department stats are there. Fire and Rescue, the number of traffic accidents at that location is there. So the stats are there. Reckless drivers, speeders, risk takers, drunk drivers, distracted drivers, poor decision making, traffic traveling from north, south of 29. There's a problem right there. The entry point of Blairmont, coming in and out of Blairmont right there with this drive-in theater would cause some problems there. That choke point right there at Mount View and Livestock. It just does not make sense to add more fuel to that fire right there. So that's the traffic problem. Number two, the noise. Well, from 7 o'clock until what, 2 o'clock? How are you gonna shut down at 12 and move 200 vehicles out in less than an hour? It's not gonna happen. There are gonna be some stragglers. The cars, the engines, the horns, the music, the exhaust fumes, the smell, the odor, the profanity from the public, obscenities inside and outside the cars, the rude behavior, the drama, the lighting, from the cars, the streams, that's going to disrupt the safety and welfare of the neighborhood. It just does not make sense. The garbage, trash, everywhere. 29, on Highway 29, Livestock Road, Mount View, Blairmont. We don't need that. We haven't even talked about the sanitary or the bathrooms on that doggone movie theater. It just does not make sense. And you want to bring more public in a community that's quiet, possible more criminal mischief, more vehicles, more people, more problems. Drive-in movie theater, entertainment venue inside a quiet neighborhood in Blairmount within close walking distance of two churches, Oak Grove Baptist and Shining Light, and a stone throw football field from two other churches. It just not makes sense. I implore this committee, that's your job, as you stated, Chairman, so eloquently, safety, general welfare, and to keep our citizens of Pittsylvania County and join me in Blairmont and say no to this petition. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, that's those who signed up. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board before we close the public hearing? All right, come forward and state your name and address, please.
My name is Calvin Giles. I live at 4340 US Highway 29, which is diagonal across from this property. We also own the store that's closed up beside of it on Mount View and 29, which our property line down the side was right directly across the street from the property line of this property here.
These lights aren't working, by the way, so I got you here.
Thank you. I didn't know if you already cut me off or not.
Well, we'll cut you off before you get started.
I agree with what everybody else here has said tonight. This intersection is probably the most dangerous intersection it is on Route 29 in Pittsylvania County. It's gotten so bad that when I hear a loud boom, I tell my wife dial 911 and I go run out to the intersection because it's a bad accident. And I've seen 5 people that lost their lives from that area. But I was here last week at the meeting and I heard Mr. Hogan talk about this project. And he explained that the bathrooms was going to be porta-johns. He explained how the women are going to be here and the men are going to be here. And then he talked about the concession stand. Well, that ends up, that's going to be a trailer that he's going to put on the lot. And the more I got to hear him talk about this, it made me wonder, so what is the screen going to be? A piece of canvas stretched between 2 trees? I mean, don't see a permanent structure. Then he said he was going to put trees all around the property so it would be invisible and all. So to me, it sounded like he's got a good wish list of something he wants to do, but he's got a Mickey Mouse operation about going about it. Well, after I said what I had and he got a chance to come back up to talk, he stood up in and rambled for approximately about 10 minutes. And in his rambling, I really got dismayed because he started off saying that he was a truck driver. He wasn't giving up his day job. He was going to run this at night. And he was going to police the drinking. He's going to police the noise. I don't know who's going to run the film. I don't know any film anymore. I don't know how they do it now. But he's got a lot of great ideas, but I don't think the budget has been figured up as what it cost. I looked at the sheet that he had over in the office where they had the drawn up on it, and all I saw was the property lines and 29 and Mountain View, and then it was a big oval in it, like that's where gravel was going to be. Well, I don't know if that's the way the cars are going to get in and out of there, or where are the cars going to park to see the film? You're going to put them on top of that just dirt? I don't think you would allow that. You'd have to gravel the whole thing. Well, I don't know if you've bought a load of gravel lately, but a tandem load of gravel is about $500 a truckload. So it's a whole lot more expense. The next thing he said to us, he was going to plant trees down 29. Well, how long is it going to take a tree to get big enough to block cars coming up down 29 for being able to look over into it? So I just don't understand it. And then the last thing he said, and I don't know how, I'm taking it out of context because I can't remember how you put it in context. He says, it could be up to 2 years. And I'm sitting there thinking, what are we doing? I mean, are we planning something that is going to be a Mickey Mouse operation, and it's going to end up being whatever is permanent built, a fence, a concession stand, a ticket booth, or whatever. In 2 years, it's going to be all covered with kudzu, just like everything is right now. It's going to be an eyesore, and we don't need it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, with that, where? Well, come on up. I can't see you back there, sorry.
Thank you for your time. Jim Henderson, 3290 Virginia Lane in Blairmont. My property is not adjacent to the lot in question. Traffic is an issue for me. My wife has had an accident at Mountain View Road. I have other friends who have had accidents at that location also. But one of the questions I have, the applicant had mentioned that he did not want any mud running onto adjacent properties. I do not know what the final pavement or surface would be, whether it would be asphalt or some kind of gravel, but I'm not a civil engineer. I was a contractor for a number of years, but I see no way that stormwater could be addressed at that situation. Everything would be running directly to the adjacent properties, adjacent residences, and consequently, I cannot see any way that stormwater could be addressed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Name and address, please.
My name is Hugh Logan. I live in Blairmont.
What was your last name?
My address is 3276 Drury Lane.
What was your last name?
Logan.
Logan, okay,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you.
Well, I dispose it too because that's a nice neighborhood. I've been living there for 22 years. And I worked at Goodyear for 28 years. And my wife worked at Teach School for 38 years. We had 3 sons. I got one son mechanical engineer, one son civil engineer, and a son teach school in Danville. It's a nice neighborhood to raise kids. I think this right here will be a problem because where I live at, I live in a cul-de-sac. Y'all know what I mean. That come around, people probably be making a circle around there at night, drinking beer, throwing cans and all. And so I'd rather not have that in this neighborhood because I think it'll bring the value of your property down. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Oh. You want to speak about the application? Yeah. Okay. Name and address, please. Sorry?
I'll just take my reporter hat off real quick.
Okay.
I just thought I would give my 2 cents. My name is Jeremy Moser. I live at 680 White Oak Circle in Dry Fork. Clearly, I'm not a nearby resident, but I thought as a resident of the county and as someone who may be interested in seeing this type of recreation activity, I wanted to express perhaps not my particular support for this project. I think many of the concerns that people have raised are valid, but I thought I would give a young person's perspective. I have very fond memories of traveling with my dad and my sister to go down to Eden, North Carolina, and I would spend an evening there watching double feature movies at the Eden, North Carolina drive-in. They're very fond memories of my childhood, and I believe that they are memories that ought to be had by children in this county. I think it would be, at least in concept, an excellent fixture, something for which children could build new memories in that way, like I did with my father. So I just wanted to give my 2 cents on that. Thank you.
Okay, what time did that double feature end?
In Eden, you mean?
Yeah.
well, let's see, if they would play 2 movies, and generally the movies would be anywhere from an hour and a half to 2.5 hours long, they would have to wait until just before sunset in order to begin playing them. So I believe we would usually get back home around 2 a.m. So,
Okay.
yes.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks. Anyone else? Okay. Okay. She doesn't. That's okay. No, we got all the time in the world. It's a long walk. Catch your breath.
I'm Sandra Logan. I live at 3276 Drury Lane, and I live right at the cul-de-sac. Drury Lane is one of the newer streets that they built in the Blairmont area. You know, I think all of us, I'm 69 years old, and any of us that age have already had the experience of a drive-in movie theater sometime in your life. You know, the whole idea of a drive-in movie theater is great, but in our neighborhood, it's unthinkable. It should not be. It should be out in the country where you have plenty of space, where you can drive all you want to. But in our neighborhood, we have closed streets. We'll have people driving through all night, and you were young yourselves. You know they're going to be parking. They're not going to go to the movie and come straight out. They're going to go to find that little last area where they can stay and do whatever and before they go home. And it's going to be the little dark areas, the little parking ends. And we will not tolerate it in our area. Now, you were young yourself. Think about it. Do you want a movie theater in your area? We don't.
Okay. Anyone else? Do you see anything? Okay. All right, with that said, I will ask Mr. Hogan to come up and give any rebuttal that he might have to what we've heard. Now, this is not for new information, but to rebut what you heard the people say, just to give you a flavor. We've heard traffic volume, noise, the screen, distraction, safety and security, traffic safety, property values, trash, alcohol, proximity of the residences, that it'll change the character of the neighborhood, that exhaust fumes and odor will be a problem, that it's undercapitalized, and that erosion and sedimentation control might be a problem. So take your pick. Where you want to start?
Well, I'll start with the road. First of all, I was planning on putting down some crush and run. I don't want to put asphalt in the property due to the water. I have been looking at crush and run, and in the packet on the paper that I had made, it's a road that goes in a circle and it comes around and has lanes in it. Within the lanes, I'm gonna put down some proper marking paint for the grass and the kudzu for the parking lines, so everyone would have a safe place to park. The drinking was not called for. There's nothing there that I would tolerate anyone acting under the influence of alcohol. 2, they talk about traffic. My neighborhood I live in right now has 2 churches. Every Sunday morning, I hear them playing music loud all the way in my house. And the traffic, churches have traffic, cars in and out. So as a theater with traffic, it's no different from a church with traffic. Church services at sometimes at nighttime. I've been at churches in the morning and at night.
We need to hear about traffic at your site, okay? Now, how you gonna? You said you would consider paying for a traffic light?
Yes. Traffic. If we can get the local sheriff's office involved, I don't know how much they charge to help me with transportation as far as getting cars in and out safely. when the drive-in is open.
Okay. And it was, you didn't mention during your original presentation, but you're talking about using porta-johns?
Yes, I
Have you
am.
had any discussion with the health department?
Well, not as of yet.
Okay.
No, but I have checked in, making sure it's the room. I have looked at certain companies that had them available because I don't want to be a part of changing anything to the property.
Okay.
That's why everything is pretty much going to be there, can be moved. Porta-johns too, I feel like it's a little safer because you can move them farther apart. If you build a bathroom building, they have stalls. So everybody that decides to use the bathroom is going to be right on top of each other. But
Okay.
porta-johns leaves a distance, I feel in my heart, that if someone's in front of you, you got 6 to 8 feet.
All right, we know what a porta-john is. These specific issues that you heard your neighbors, the concerns they have,
Yes.
how would you specifically address some more of those? You got any others that you want to address, any other issues?
Yes, noise,
Noise.
will be an issue.
How are you going to address that?
By people in the cars, they will be doing their own transmitting in their device as far as hearing the movie throughout their car.
Okay.
And if I can hear it, I'll be a whole lot closer to them than the neighbors. So if I hear a call that really got loud music, I would constantly go over there and remind them, please turn it down. I mean, there's neighbors in the neighborhood that I've met through a meeting that does not like it. So please, be respectful for the neighbors of the neighborhood that we have a part of even having the opportunity, even having a theater in Danville, and probably ain't had one in 30 years. So,
Okay, again, this is rebuttal for
okay,
addressing what the public had to say.
yes.
Anything else?
Well, the public did say about lights that can be a distraction from the road. I don't think it'll be no more lit up than Walmart parking lot. I really don't see a lot of lights. There's a light that shines on the side of a building over there. That,
So what are you going to do about the lights?
well, I'm gonna put up a buffer, and the light is not going to be pointing towards the highway for no means. The light's going to be pointing towards a hill that's in the back.
Okay.
So there's going to be an offset.
All right.
Okay, and
anything else you heard you want to address?
well, I heard one neighbor was stating that the drive-in is going to be, what, 100 feet from a backyard. Well, the property is 100 feet from a backyard, but the drive-in itself won't be. Because the option of having a theater is me getting with the neighbors in the neighborhood and decide how far back do they need it to be.
So what kind of setback are you proposing between the
Well,
car park and the screen? From your property line, how far back?
I can go back as far as probably an extra 75, 100 feet or farther. I mean, I haven't got the opportunity to get back there real good, but I mean, I can bring the theater screen. I might be able to bring it up 200 feet from their backyards. And two, about their backyards, they talk about people throwing beer cans and beer bottles. I mean, it's no car going to be close to it because that's where the location close to where the screen's going to be.
Okay.
And the noise and the distraction from seeing the drive-in, as they stated, they've been living there for 35 years. I mean, it's cut suit.
You know, we need to stick to the rebuttal of what you heard them say.
Right.
So you said you've addressed noise, you've addressed lights. Any other issues that they brought up that you want to address?
Well, the buffer trees. One issue they addressed is, young man said, why is it going to take him 2 years to get this going? Because when you buy trees, and we'll buy them emerald green, looks like Christmas trees, and them trees grow 4 to 6 feet per year. Once them trees reach the distance of height, is where there's no visibility, is the moment that I'm gonna be in the process of planning on opening the drive-in theater. The screen itself won't be installed until the trees is up. So while I'm going through the committee as early as getting a special use permit, is before I take the opportunity to start planting. Because when you start planting trees, I'm going to have to start maintaining them, cleaning up around them. And it's no sense really to plant a tree if it has no use.
Okay. Anything else?
I think that's all I heard them talk about, unless I accidentally forgot something.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank y'all.
With that, we'll close the public hearing at 8:45.
Mr. Chairman, I'd rather consider a negative motion written exactly like it's written. I don't think we've named off 10 detriments that
13, actually.
13,
Yeah.
I don't think we're gonna do it.
13 that we should consider. Traffic volume, noise, the distraction of the screen, safety and security, traffic safety at the intersections, property values, trash control, alcohol, and the proximity of these residences. Just look at the map. And whether or not it would change the characteristic of the neighborhood, the exhaust, odor, and then I think it's pretty obvious that he's undercapitalized and this construction could last a long time. And then the issue of the erosion and sedimentation. That is a bowl, and the only outlet is through the residential neighborhood. But without considering each one of those and how they might be mitigated, in totality, you think that a negative motion would be
And I agree. I don't think
justifiable.
there's any conditions we can add that would mitigate enough of the conditions to properly issue a positive motion. So I'd vote for a negative motion. Is this thing working?
Negative motion.
negative?
Negative.
All right, we'll try that one first. Let's see if it flies. The positive motion, the negative motion in case, thank you, S-20-017 would read, whereas Randy Hogan has petitioned the Board of Zoning Appeals for a special use permit for a drive-in movie theater, and whereas we find substantial detriment to adjacent property, that the character of the zoning district will be changed thereby, and that such use will not be in harmony with the purpose and intent of the ordinance, I move the special use permit be denied.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the negative motion denying the special use permit, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you. It's unanimous. Do I hear a motion we adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out.